friends. It's Lisa Wade Berry here with the fourth video in the Real Big Love series. Today we are going to talk about my favorite word, love. So we're going to talk about love and how it applies to soulful service. In video number one, we talked about the idea of soulful service and how it's really inspired, meaningful, and sustainable service that we offer to others, our families, the world. In video two, we talked about the idea of being real. So bringing our authentic, true, real selves into our service and allowing other people to do the same. In video three, we talked about getting big with our service, or the idea of getting outside of our own comfort zone to allow our service to grow and to benefit the world in an even bigger way. Today, we're going to talk about love as being the real motivator behind soulful service and our opportunity to have the most significant impact. Change that's truly transformational rather than just transactional, that's rooted in and based in and driven by this idea of love. So, in the first video, we talked a little bit about the namaste concept, with namaste being a Sanskrit word that basically, loosely defined, means the divine light in me recognizes and honors the divine light in you. Now, imagine if we approached all of our service interactions from that place of namaste, or all of our relationships for that matter. Can you imagine how different our interactions might be, how uplifting, how empowering they might be if we could approach it from that place of shared humanity, from that commonality? So often in life, we are looking for what divides us, for what separates us, for what makes us different. But with soulful service, it asks us to actually look for what are those things that bring us together and make us the same, or that unite us. And this idea of namaste really, truly does that. How do we engage in that? How do we do that? Really, it boils down to two ways. One is to love people that we serve exactly where they are, who they are, as they are, mess and all. And the second is to offer the same to ourselves, to be willing and able to love ourselves, to show up as ourselves, exactly as we are, where we are, mess and all. Mess and all. Because we're human and there's always going to be a mess. There's going to be a mess with those we serve. There's going to be messes in our own lives. And to the extent that we can not allow that to deter us or get in the way of our service, that's really what can make a huge difference. I go back and I think about the amazing philosopher, poet, and guitar god, Jimi Hendrix, who once said, "When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace." And imagine a world that looks like that, or us helping to facilitate a home, a relationship, an organization, a community, a world like the power. Now, don't get me wrong. This idea of soulful service is not for wimps. It means consciously choosing to see others and to see our service and even to see ourselves through the lens of love rather than the lens of fear. It means finding those things that unite us rather than focusing on those things that divide us. And that is not always easy, but it's worth it. So think about your own organization. Many organizations are driven by missions, right? Causes, organizations, people, families often have a mission. What is it that drives you? How do you want to show up? Do you want to show up from a place of love, or would you rather be driven by fear? Often it's not something that folks think about within their own lives. And this is something that through the book, Real Big Love, and with my work with clients, that we actually look at how they're showing up in the world, how they want to show up in the world. I discuss the hows and the whys in the book of why love-based service, why this approach actually matters and how to go about it. We talk about the ideas of this namaste concept, but also the power of things like forgiveness and gratitude, and this novel little notion called self-love as being so critically important to being able to help us make strides in serving with love. Now, this might all seem kind of relatively straightforward, maybe even easy when working through organizations, working with people who may be complete strangers, with people that we only interact with on occasion. It gets a little messier when it gets close to home. The results can be even bigger and more impactful when it gets close to home, but it's also harder. Now, I'm going to tell you a little story about life with dad, the daddy-daughter dance here. Now, for those of you who know my dad, you know our relationship has been like a 4-decade rough patch, right? It's sometimes our interactions felt like a F4 emotional tornado kind of tearing through life, but that was life with dad. And needless to say, I came to kind of fear our interactions, came to be a little bit resentful. And then a couple years ago, dad moved from another state nearby. And you can imagine that I had some anxiety about that, some pretty huge anxiety. And then dad got sick and dad needed help. And so I had the opportunity to look at how I was going to show up in service with him from either a place of resentment and fear or from a place of genuine love and gratitude. And I decided to choose the latter. And I'm so glad that I did. It's made such a tremendous difference. You know, and what's interesting is that as my attitude softened, so did his. As I started looking at every interaction, every impulse that I had to judge negatively, and there were plenty, right? As I looked at every one of those impulses to judge as actually an invitation to love more, he started becoming less judgmental and kinder. As I became truly grateful for our relationship and the opportunities to interact, he started expressing more gratitude and more optimism. You know, it's not like I did all the work. For goodness sakes, he was right there in it. We never even talked about this aspect of it. But as our attitudes softened, as we allowed love to be what guided us in our interactions, instead of past resentments, past hurts, those kinds of things, it made all the difference. You know, it was once said that to forgive is to set a prisoner free and realize that that prisoner is you. You know, through the way our relationship has changed over the past couple of years, dad and I have both been set free. And that is a beautiful thing. But as I became in a position to need to be of greater service to dad, it also allowed me to serve from a place of love rather than a place of fear. Now, the idea in that situation was it could be hard, right? When we're interacting with other people, whether it's the easy stuff or the harder stuff, when we can show up with love, then our interactions can be truly transformational. It could have been a transaction with dad. Yeah, I'll go get your medicine. I'll go do your grocery shopping. I'll help clean your house, whatever. But it went beyond the transaction to truly transforming from this F4 emotional tornado situation to where now our interactions are genuinely calm and peaceful and filled with love. And personally, I can't imagine a better gift. I just can't imagine a better gift. You know, the Sufi mystic poet Rumi once said, when I was young, I thought I was clever and wanted to change the world. And now I'm wise, so I am changing myself. And if you go back to the idea of Gandhi, be the change you wish to see in the world, it really is about how can we change the way we interact, the way we present, the way we love and serve with love in such a way that uplifts those we interact with, but also ourselves. So in the next and final video in this series, we're actually going to look at exactly that. How can we turn that lens of love around on ourselves and look at 8 key areas within our own lives that we can do a little self-assessment and see where we might be able to do some work on ourselves so that we can show up in a bigger, in a bolder, in a more love-filled way in our soulful service to the world. So I hope you'll join me for the next video. And until then, I hope you have a great night. Thanks.